Hello, everyone. Today we're going to talk about an article found in your Life magazine, and it's on Unit 10, pages 44 to 47. And the title of this article is The Truth Behind Treasured Fairy Tales. The Truth Behind Treasured Fairy Tales. Now, let's talk about the title first. When we say the truth, it's not a story, it's not a fake story, it's a fact. Okay? And then when we say treasured, it means it's an adjective that means special or cherished or precious. So something or someone that you give value or importance to. For example, treasured bike. So a bike that you really love. Treasured friend. Treasured friend. So it's a friend whom you truly love or give importance to. Now, the truth behind something, it means what is the real explanation behind a certain concept or idea or an event. So, the truth behind treasured fairy tales talks about an explanation behind all the fairy tales that we know. Fairy tales, for example, Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, Beauty and the Beast, etc., etc. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about in this particular lesson. Now, before we dive in, we're going to talk about some of the vocabulary for the first two pages of the article. So there are five, and the first one is associate. Associate. So when you associate, it means you connect, you relate a certain concept with another concept. So in this example, associate A with B. So usually you connect two things or two related concepts. And this is used as a verb. Example, people associate Canada with cold weather, but it can get quite hot in summer. People associate Canada with cold weather. So when people think of Canada, they instantly think about cold weather because it's really cold in Canada. Another example would be people associate Taiwan with factories. So some people, when they think of Taiwan or when they hear the country Taiwan, they instantly think, oh, okay, there are a lot of factories in Taiwan. So people associate Taiwan with factories. Okay, let's proceed to number two. Number two, innocent. 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 And it's used as an adjective. It means something or someone pure or naive, innocent. So think about a child. So a child is very pure, very innocent, doesn't know about the different problems of the world because he's just a child. Example, Debbie has such an innocent face that her parents can never stay mad at her. Okay, so that's innocent. Number three, some. Some, and it's used as a noun. So some is often used in mathematics, but in everyday conversation, when we say some, it just refers to money. And you can use the following um, phrases: a large sum of money or large sums of money. Example, Jim asked to borrow a large sum of money to get his car fixed. Some. Number four is revenge. Revenge. So it's a noun. So a revenge is an action that you do to somebody or to someone who did something bad at you in the past. So, example, Betty won't rest until she gets her revenge. Betty won't rest until she gets her revenge. So maybe somebody did something bad to Betty and she wants her revenge. Number five, oppose. Oppose. And it's used as a verb. Oppose. And the noun for this would be opposition. Opposition. So when you oppose to someone, it means you disagree. You disagree or you argue with someone. Example, the president was challenged by a politician from an opposing party. First, a politician is someone who works in the government and has a position. The president was challenged by a politician from an opposing party. So opposing party, so a party that's it can be your competitor or it can be your opponent. So opposing party. But we don't say oppose party. We say opposing party. So again, these are the five vocabulary words that we're gonna encounter in the first part of the article. Associate, and remember, associate A with B. Innocent, innocent. Some, some. Revenge, revenge. Oppose, oppose. Okay, let's talk about the first part of the article. So let's talk about the first paragraph. Unit 10, the truth behind treasured fairy tales. We usually associate the phrase once upon a time with a light, whimsical bedtime story. And this is true. When we hear or read the phrase once upon a time, so instantly we feel good, and what comes to mind for me personally is we're gonna talk about or we're gonna read something about a good, a light bedtime story. For example, Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, etc. So the phrase once upon a time is associated with whimsical or light, whimsical bedtime story. So first, let's talk about the adjective whimsical. So whimsical, it's playful or playfully weird and fun. Example, my brother said we should plant money in our backyard so we could get rich. That is a whimsical idea. It's true. That is a weird, playful or playfully weird and fun idea because nobody plants money in his or her backyard and then the money grows and it makes him or her rich. So that is a very whimsical idea. Okay, second sentence. However, reality is often much grimmer than the innocent stories we grew up listening to. First, let's understand the word um, grim. Grim. So, grim is an adjective that means dark, gloomy, or sad. However, so this is a negation. However, reality or the truth okay, is often much grimmer than the innocent stories we grew up listening to. So think about Cinderella. It's a very light, whimsical story. We think about the prince, we think that it's a love story, but there is a grim reality into it. And that's what we're going to find out in the next sentences. So, example, the reality in Palestine. So, a few weeks ago, there was an ongoing war between the Palestinians and the Israelis. The reality in Palestine is much grimmer than the news stories we see in the media. So we only see news, we see videos and articles about the truth in Palestine. But when we go there, the reality, it is much sad, much more sad, much more dark, than the news stories we see in the media. The media example, social media. Here are the true stories behind some popular fairy tales. So we're gonna talk about the Pied Piper of Hamelin. So I'm gonna link also the YouTube a YouTube video of the Pied Piper of Hamelin, just so you will remember um, this children's story. The Pied Piper of Hamelin. By the way, Hamelin or Hamlin is um, a village, if I'm not mistaken, in Germany. So it's a place in Germany. In this tale, or in this story, that dates back centuries ago, okay, so centuries. Century, it means 100 years. So centuries, that's a couple of 100 years. In this tale that dates back, so that goes back centuries, a man in a colored coat, so this guy, lures all the rats out of the town of Hamelin with his flute. So first let's talk about lure. 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 It's a verb. It means to tempt or to seduce or to invite. To tempt, to invite. But in this case, it says lures all the cats or all the rats rather out of the town of Hamelin. Out of. Lure out of, or you can also say lure away. To tempt. To tempt someone to go somewhere. In this case, a man in a colored coat lures all the rats out of the town of Hamelin with his flute. So every time he plays his flute, all the rats go away. And rats are considered dirty, right? So the people in the town agree to pay the piper a large sum if he helps them. Okay, so because he's doing something great or something positive or something helpful to the town of Hamelin, the people there, they decided that they want to pay him a large sum of money. But, here's a but they go back on their word. When we say someone goes back on their word, it means he or she breaks a promise, or he or she didn't do something that he promised to do. So, obviously, if someone breaks a promise, you will get upset. So, what happens next? The piper gets his revenge. So, he wanted to do something bad to the people because they didn't fulfill their promise. The piper gets back his revenge by lifting his flute to his lips and luring away. This time, it's not the rats, but luring away all the children of the town. They are neither seen nor heard from again. And that is very sad. So he lured away all the children out of the town. And this incident was accordingly led to the children being neither seen nor heard. Neither nor. Either or. Okay, so that is the pattern. Neither seen. So people didn't see the children, and they also didn't hear from them again. And that's a very, very sad incident. Next paragraph. While most agree on the fairy tale's ending, there is much discussion on what really happened. There is an inscription in Hamelin that states that 130 children were led out of town by the piper on June 26, 1284. So I'm going to show you what an inscription is. Inscription is a lettering. Okay, an inscription is a writing or a lettering, and this was found in Germany. And it says AD 1284, on the 26th of June, the day of St. John and St. Paul, 130 children born in Hamelin were led out of the town by a piper wearing multicolored clothes. So this is an inscription found in Germany. Okay, there is an inscription in Hamlin that states that 130 children were led out of town by the piper on June 26, 1284. And there are two theories also from other people. Theory, it's like a proposition or an explanation, but it's not really proven yet. So it's not like a fact. That's why we can hear scientific theory. Okay, one theory suggests that all of the citizens of Hamlin, all of the people, not just the children, were forced to move to other parts of Europe. Another. So you can see the pattern here. One, another. Another, that means another theory, suggests that the piper lured the children out of town to be killed by an opposing religious group. Now, this is even scarier. Another theory suggests that the piper lured the children out of town and they got killed by an opposing religious group. Okay, let's talk about the pattern. One, another. So basically, you're going to use this pattern when you want to enumerate or you want to mention um, two things. In this sentence, my father bought two houses last year. One is in California, another is in Miami. So one of your two houses is in California, another is in Miami. One, another. Okay, so now let's proceed to part two, or the next story that we're gonna discuss. And again, I'm gonna share the link also so you can watch it on your own. You can watch just to remember Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. First, let's gonna talk about the vocabulary. So there are five remaining vocabulary in this article. First one is mysteriously. Mysteriously. It's an adverb. Now it's from the word mystery. Mystery. Mystery refers to something unexplainable. So an event or an incident that you cannot really explain. Unexplainable. Example: the plane mysteriously disappeared late last night. The plane mysteriously disappeared. So, how it disappeared? It's very unexplainable. Mysteriously disappeared late last night. Number two, minor. Minor. So, minor is a noun and it refers to a person. A person who works at a mine. So, I'm gonna show you an example of a mine. So this is a land, an open land where people dig in for minerals like gold, diamonds, copper, etc. Years ago, Miranda's grandpa worked as a gold miner. Number three is copper. So a copper is this one. So it's that orangey kind of substance, okay, that you can find in mines. Pipes made of copper are less harmful to the environment. Number four is tunnel. Tunnel. And in Taiwan, I saw a few tunnels in Taroko, in Nantou. Taking the tunnel is the fastest way to get to the part of town. Taking the tunnel is the fastest way to get to the part of town. So this is an example of a tunnel found in Taroko Gorge. And then finally we have educate. Educate. So educate is a verb, to educate. It's from education. We're very familiar with education, where it's a system of learning, and an education is where you can learn, where you can improve yourself, you can absorb knowledge from books, from your teachers, etc. Sophie was educated at one of Japan's most famous schools. So Sophie was educated at one of Japan's most famous schools. Okay, so these are five of the vocabulary words: mysteriously, minor, copper, tunnel, educate. Now let's proceed to the article. Okay, now let's talk about the second fairy tale, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. So the dwarfs are little tiny people. So they're not like the regular or normal sized people, but they're very tiny, and you can see them in the story Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Now let's talk about the first sentence. Some believe Snow White is based on a German noblewoman who was hated by her stepmother and sent to live in Belgium. Okay, so we all know that Snow White is pretty, she's beautiful, but according to the explanation, she is actually, or her story is actually based on a German noblewoman. Noblewoman. So, a noblewoman in the past is a woman who belongs to a rich family or aristocracy. For example, Queen Elizabeth. So, Queen Elizabeth is considered a noblewoman. So, a German noblewoman who was hated by her stepmother. Stepmother, what is stepmother? So, stepmother is the wife of your father, not your biological mother. For example, um, when your father gets or marries a new wife, she becomes your stepmother. Let's say your mom died, unfortunately, or touch wood. Okay, your mother died, and then your father um, marries a new lady. So that lady or that new wife is your stepmother. And this German noblewoman was hated by her stepmother, and she was sent to live in Belgium. So Belgium is also a neighboring country, a neighboring country of Germany. There, she fell for a Spanish prince. Fell for. Fell for basically means fell in love. Okay, she fell in love with a Spanish prince against the King of Spain's wishes. Against the King of Spain's wishes. So the father of the prince, the Spanish prince, didn't like this German noblewoman. And what happened next is the noblewoman died mysteriously, unexplainably, and was likely poisoned. So, who poisoned the German noblewoman? We don't know. So, that's why it says mysteriously, something very unlikely or unexplainable. This last fact could also explain the poison apple in the fairy tale. So, it's very famous. In Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, there was this iconic poison apple given to her by an old lady. Next, the seven dwarfs seem to be inspired by child miners who worked in the copper mine owned by the noblewoman's father. So, also a very prominent part of Snow White's story are the seven dwarfs, and they're actually child miners in reality who worked in the copper mine owned by the noblewoman's father. Children were the only ones small enough to fit inside the narrow tunnels of the mines. So if you think about it, it's illegal. It's not allowed for children to work. So that's why this is considered very tragic or very sinister, very unlikely, very sad. Okay, again, talk about mysteriously. It's an adverb that refers to having no clear explanation, cannot be explained, or unknown. Okay, now down to the last story, and this is Beauty and the Beast. And again, I'm going to link the story so that you will remember this fairy tale, Beauty and the Beast. Now, let's talk about Beauty and the Beast. Pedro Gonzalez was likely the basis for the beast in this tale. Pedro Gonzalez. So, this is a man. And in now let's backtrack a little bit. So Beauty and the Beast talks about the story between a beautiful lady, as you can see here, and an ugly guy. So Pedro Gonzalez was likely the basis for the beast in this tale. So this is the beast. Born in the 15th century, so that's about 1400s, he had, so the beast, or Pedro Gonzalez, had a rare, very unusual medical condition. Medical condition that caused him to have hair all over his body. So, a normal person doesn't have much hair, but Pedro Gonzalez has a rare, unusual medical condition. So, it's like an illness or a disease. And this disease caused him to have hair all over his body, including his face. He was abandoned by his parents and later sent as a gift to the King of France. So, usually, but before that, let's talk about abandoned, left by his parents. So, his parents didn't get to take care of him, they just left him and sent him as a gift. So a gift is typically an object, right? Or a material, not a person. So this is something very horrible. A gift to the King of France. Now the king's doctors learned he was a normal boy under all that hair. So under all that massive hair, he's considered as a normal boy. The king had him educated and his name changed to the noble sounding Petros Gonsalvos. Okay, now let's talk about had or have plus object and then past participle. Have plus object plus past participle. Example, Mr. Young had her house cleaned last week. So you're not the subject is not actually the one doing the action, but there is another entity. This is the object. Okay, another person doing the action for you. Mr. Young had her house cleaned last week. So Mr. Young didn't actually clean his house, but maybe he paid someone to clean his house last week. So that's the difference when we use this particular pattern. Another is, I want to have my nails painted soon. I want to have my nails painted soon. So you want your nails to get done, but you're not actually the one doing it, but maybe somebody working at a beauty salon. So that's why you said, I want to have my nails painted soon by somebody. Okay. It's said that the fiction is often based on fact. Fiction, like a story, not a real event, is often based on fact or truth. Luckily, we can rest assured that our versions of these fairy tales almost always end with a happily ever after. Usually, the ending is a happy one. But if we take a closer look at all these stories, they're actually grim, they're actually sad. So, those are the explanations or the truth behind treasured fairy tales. All right, so this is a comprehension question, and you can pause it and then you can answer it on your own. And then I'm going to reveal the answer after a few seconds. Why was the German noblewoman sent to Belgium? Why was she sent to Belgium? A. She was sent there to work in a copper mine. B. She was forced to go by the King of Spain. C. She moved to Belgium to work on an apple farm. And D. She was not liked by a family member. So the answer is D. She wasn't liked by a family member, and in particular, she wasn't liked by her stepmom or his stepmother. Next, number two. What is your answer? Who is the beast in Beauty and the Beast based on? A. A nobleman from Spain. B. A man who had a rare medical condition. C. A former king of France. Or D. A child who worked in a copper mine. So the answer is Pedro Gonzalez, a man who had a rare medical condition. That's it for today. Thank you guys for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful day, everyone. Bye!